Welcome to another episode of the Top Producers Nation podcast. This, of course, is the podcast that is made for agents who are either top producers or who desire to be top producers in your desired market. You can check out our program and our community at topproducersnation.com. And we, of course, are powered locally by our local franchise, which is Tampa Bay Real Producers. Our guest today is Jane McCroary, who has been featured in Tampa Bay Real Producers before as a top 500 producing agent in this particular market. We feature the top 500 producing agents in our magazine and in our local events all throughout our local communities. So good to have our guest today, Miss Jane McCroary. Good to have you here, Jane.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it.
No doubt. It's our pleasure for sure. Excited to dive into your story a little bit. Jane is a top producer with Remax Metro. Most of your work, I take it, is in St. Pete area, Pinellas County. Is that true?
Most of it is, but my goal or my approach is that I have very good, solid relationships with my clients. And as such, by providing them with an exceptional service level, if they move someplace else, they ask me to help them. So, for example, I was helping a client sell farmland with a house on it in Arcadia, down off the beaten track,
Sure.
Sarasota.
That is farm country.
I've been up in Odessa. I've been in Tarpon Springs. I have a place for sale now. So it's people that know me and just want me to handle things for them.
Oh, very close. So Jane has been a top producer in our top 500 list ever since we started Tampa Bay Real Producers. Has done over $30 million in a year before, did around 20 million or so in volume, last year. Is it fair to say that your niche, if you were to define it, would be in the luxury space at all, or is that not really what you focus on?
The business kind of found me, so I didn't set out saying, I want to be in this space or that space. I go all the way through the spectrum. So I do have luxury listings and luxury properties, and I can do that. I do a lot in the middle ground, say from 500 to 900. That's kind of a sweet spot for me.
Okay.
I do a lot of condos, but also single family. But then I have people who approach me, like now I'm working on an offer that's for 106,000. It's a repeat client. I give those clients with those lower priced homes the same attention that someone would get if they were selling a home worth a couple of million.
That's cool. Yeah, absolutely. So it's really just about providing the customer service level that you feel like you want to have your name attached to.
Yes.
And wherever that client might fall, so be it, right?
Exactly.
Let's go back up a little bit for people who don't really know your story at all, or your background. So I know we were talking off camera how you were from Long Island.
Yes.
Initially, what made you come to Florida and how'd you get interested in real estate?
My husband and I had gone on a business trip. I used to work for Lufthansa German Airlines. And I was on a business trip in Sarasota. And my husband and I were kind of cooling off in the Gulf and looking at these beautiful beachfront condos that were there. And we just sat there and said, oh my gosh, do you ever think we could ever afford something like that in our life? Look at that. How great would it be to live on the beach? And we both kind of figured it's probably not likely. Well, you fast forward a few years and things happen in careers and whatever, but we never lost that initial impression and desire from that time sitting in the Gulf looking at
That's neat. It's a cool story.
At the condos. So
it's off the dream a little bit, huh?
Yeah. So my husband transferred down first. He was with the FBI and he got called finally for Tampa and I just followed him down.
Oh, wow. So your husband is he still with the FBI?
No, he retired.
He did. Okay.
He had a difference of opinion during a certain time period.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can understand that. I think that happens a lot, I would imagine. So you, were you a flight attendant at the time?
No. And that's very funny. I love when I get that question because I say, no, I was a managing director of a wholly owned subsidiary.
That's another way to look at it, I guess, right?
Yeah.
How long were you in that industry?
30 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so did you get involved in real estate at all in New York, or was that once you moved to Florida?
I got involved as an investor. So we always had a condo or two that we rented out, figuring let's get our toe in the market in Florida.
Yeah.
And then when we're ready to move down there, we either have a place to live or we have some equity built up in a property.
Got it. And that makes sense for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you guys come down here?
2008.
Okay. And were you a licensed agent at that time?
No, I worked for Merrill Lynch at that time and then switched to Morgan Stanley. So I was in the banking sector.
Got it. And then at some point you decided real estate was for me as a full-time business?
I got very tired of corporate after a while because I was in corporate for the time at Lufthansa and then 5 years at Merrill, 5 years at Morgan Stanley. And I just got tired of it. There would be these massive big projects where 30 or 40 people on a conference call and decisions took forever to be made because they had to go through all these channels, especially in banking. And I just felt it would be so nice to be able to just have my own business and make a decision myself.
Yeah. Oh man, I can understand that for sure. I'd be wanting to bang my head against the wall if that was the culture that I had to deal with.
Yes.
So was becoming an agent the first time you've had your own business and,
Yes.
and had that independence? Cool. Has it suited you well? Seems like it has.
As I was mentioning to you earlier, I had the vision that I would retire from Morgan Stanley and I would be a real estate agent part-time. That is actually hilarious because I don't think there is any such thing as a part-time real
I
estate
didn't want to be
agent.
good at it.
You have to go in with both feet.
Yeah.
You really do. And you can't pick when the business is going to come or when the calls are going to come in from a client.
Right.
So you have to be available. So the business took off more than I would have ever imagined or even tried to do. It just happened, really.
Now, was that pretty quickly, like in your first year, or did it take a while for you to get that traction?
I think the first year was a very steep curve going up, but I would say the second year I really started probably 10 million the second year, maybe.
Nice. That's a really solid second year for sure. Now, did you just build your network like completely organically, and that's how you started getting your deals under your belt, or was there other strategies that you that you implemented when you got off the ground?
I had signed up at one point with Zillow for leads when my business was humming enough where I could afford that. And at that time, the buyer leads were very good there. So I built my business in my own community, which is a very large condo community, and also through people that I got through Realtor or Zillow kind of leads.
Yep.
And then as I sold those people homes, and as those people had good experiences, then in a couple of years, if they were making a change, they became repeat clients or they referred others to me.
Yeah, so that makes sense. What percentage of your business now is based off of referrals and repeat business? Do you know?
All of it.
Is it really that high? Wow. So it's really just about building that customer loyalty, and you've never really done anything outside of that, it seems like, to try to market in other ways. It just hasn't been necessary for you?
I mean, I've done some social media. I never found it particularly productive. I advertise in the local Paradise News, or I used to, on the beaches. Good exposure. People would say to me, "Oh, I see your name everywhere."
Sure.
But not really a phone call saying, "Oh, I saw you in Paradise News."
Right.
And the same thing with the Times. I advertise there. I'm part of the Lux group at Metro, which is agents who deal in luxury as well.
Yep.
And we have an ad in there, and it's exposure, but it's not really direct clients going to call you exposure.
Yep.
It's more image.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So there's a branding component for sure to that, but it seems like nuts and bolts as far as the actual deals that you can account for, it's really just come through your relationships.
Yes.
And the network that you built. Anything that come to mind, Jane, that has been a keys for you in establishing that type of loyalty with your clients that make them want to keep coming back to you, whether that's specific programs or systems or just how the relationships that you've built because of who you are as a person? What comes to mind at all in terms of the things that have been important for you to stay true to?
I think the key to my success has been a combination of knowledge and service. So my background just happened to fit in perfectly with what the requirements would be for to become a good, strong realtor. So I had sales experience already, doing contracts with big clients for Lufthansa, C-level people I was talking with and all. So I was very comfortable in that sphere. And then I had marketing experience. I was the head of marketing for Lufthansa in the United States at one point. So, I mean, when you're dealing with $50 million, $100 million clients, and they ask you to do something or their advisor asks you to do something, you can bet that you're going to have a call 5 minutes later saying, "Is it done yet?"
Yeah.
So
there's a certain level of expectation that's been needs to be met.
absolutely, absolutely. So when you're used to providing that level of service, and now you're providing it to people in the real estate sphere, I don't know any other way but that kind of service.
Yeah.
So when you do that, believe it or not, it's kind of a differentiator, because even as I'm training an assistant at the moment, I make her conscious. Be careful how many times and for what reason you touch the client. Don't go back and touch the client if it's something that we already got, obviously, or if it's something that we can find ourselves or do ourselves. Just touch them for something real. And every time I touch a client, I make sure that I add some aspect of demonstrated value. So, well, here's some knowledge that I have on this topic. The lender for the other side said that this, and this was going to happen. I've seen this, and therefore I feel we should do that. For example, I just had a deal where they wanted an extension for 30 days because the buyer decided they wanted to get a home equity line of credit on their home. And I said to the other realtor, and when 30 days passes, you're going to be back to me asking for another 30 days. I have never seen a HELOC on God's earth
Move that fast.
that could close in 30 days.
Yeah.
So you're going to need 60, and no, we're not doing that.
Right. Very cool. I love the mindset of being aware of every time you touch the client and making sure that there's a value proposition somehow tied into that touch, because I think most people take that for granted way too much. And if you're intentional about that, then more often than not, that's going to come through and it's going to be felt by the client. And that, like you said, has obviously worked for you, which has helped these people coming back to you time and time again.
Absolutely.
On the buy and sell side. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I also love and respect that you seem like you're very confident in the niche that you found. You mentioned off camera that you don't have a team. You weren't ever really, from what I can tell, looking to build a team or become a big recruiter.
No.
And I've had people obviously on the show who do that, and many of them do very well because of it and have thrived because of that. And then I have many others like yourself who never even had that path as something that they'd be interested in, and also have been very successful. So I respect that there's more than one way, to be successful in this industry, in this business, and you just have to find the niche that you can serve at the highest levels, which for you seems like revolves around client satisfaction and customer service.
If I had a team, my name is going to go on that first of all. And I'm so manic about how my service is delivered that it would just be very uncomfortable for me relying on somebody that much to that degree who is going to fulfill my vision for service. So that would be one thing. But the other thing is I've managed teams for most of my career, from 5 people to 250 people.
Yeah.
And, being a manager, it kind of takes a lot out of you. I mean, even when I had 250 people, I would have a one-on-one with every single one of those people.
Yep.
Sometime
Takes
throughout
a lot
the
of
year.
intentional focus to give, yeah.
And I just wanted to be in my own business for the reason I stated before. I want to be responsible for my own decisions and produce my own income and not have to worry about managing others except my assistant.
Totally. No, it makes a lot of sense. What types of functions does your assistant focus on now? What do you lean on her or train her to do?
The assistant I have now is actually very new, and she's a licensed realtor, but she hasn't gotten the training in the brokerage where she is. They're very interested in grooming her for the sales side and how to recruit clients, but the back office is completely missing. So I'm training her right now on just the paperwork. And it's not just the paperwork, but it's thinking about the transaction. So, okay, in this case, we're on the buyer side. What's the journey of a buyer transaction? So I had developed over time a series of checklists for things to do, because in real estate, it's a swirling mass of tiny details always around your head.
Yeah.
And if you try to make yourself remember those, something will absolutely fall through the crack.
Something tells me that your flight experience might have helped with that checklist concept a little bit.
Perhaps a little. But, that way it's all in front of you. So you can look at the checklist. I did a spreadsheet for her the other day with all of my listings, because right now things are moving slowly. So I have more listings than I would usually have. And when the closing dates are, when the expiration date is on the listing, and those kind of things. So that I said to her, every morning when you come in, look at this, and you'll know which things are going to rise to the top as a priority. If there's a closing next week, obviously that one's going to need your urgent attention.
Yeah, for sure. No, it makes a lot of sense. And I love the checklist concept too. It's a great way, a great system for anybody to have to make sure they're not forgetting, the little things, the important things, which really could be the difference sometimes between the deal falling apart versus the deal actually coming to fruition the way it's supposed to, right?
Absolutely. Deadlines are a serious part of real estate.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure that you're adhering to those deadlines, or it could really damage your client.
Do you have any favorite things or strategies that have worked for you on the listing side to be able to get them in front of the right people? And I know you said that the market is slower a little bit right now. So it does, and you've been around long enough that you've seen all kinds of different markets, right? That you've been through. Based on the market itself, does your strategies change on how you would go about getting the listings sold the right way? Is there anything you can talk about there?
Absolutely. I've always found it best practice to sincerely do what's best for the client. That's not a platitude. I mean it. And I've been called in several times to people where they've said, gee, I was thinking of selling. Like, for example, I had a very senior person call me in, and she was worried about potential special assessments in our community and would she be able to afford it and all. She said, I'm thinking of selling. So I asked her a number of questions and we went through everything. And I just looked at her and I said, I know you're going to think I'm the worst salesperson in the world, but don't sell. Don't sell. You're going to be fine and you should stay. And it's too early. If things go a different way, call me and talk to me again. But I really think you're going to be fine. And now in this market, I've talked to a couple of potential listers into renting because of when they bought and how much they weren't going to make on the property now in this market. And I say, you know what, why don't you just rent for 2 years or so? And then we'll see what happens. So it's me giving up a listing, but that builds incredible trust.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Totally. And it, again, speaks to why somebody would be comfortable coming back to you and using you for when the service time is right for them because they trust that you're out for their best interest. So.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the best agents that I've gotten to know over the years really adopt that approach of being a true consultant and want to position themselves that way.
Yes.
Rather than, having that commission breath and just being the salesperson, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
People can feel the difference. What's your favorite part of being an agent? What do you love? What do you appreciate about it the most?
I like the success. I like it when we come to the end of the road and we have the closing and people are happy. They're happy with the way things went. And I especially like it if I have to solve some crisis, which despite your best efforts and all your due diligence and everything, things still happen, perhaps from the other side, perhaps from our side, whatever. Perhaps there was something with the chain of title, for example, and there are things that you have to get solved. And there are creative ways to do that.
Yeah.
And I love it when I can think out of the box and do something like that and solve it and get to the finish line. For example, that one where they wanted the 30-day extension, we're going to be able to close it in 7 days instead of 30 because I involved a different lender with a different strategy and plan.
Nice.
And that's how we got it done. When you do something like that, there's just nothing like it. It's such a great feeling because you know that you were a catalyst to bringing this to successful conclusion for all parties. They're all happy.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think there is a difference between your everyday agent and what you just described, right? The person who is a real solution-oriented person and can be a solution finder when various problems come up. Because if you look at the data, it's kind of mind-blowing for a lot of people that the vast percentage, I remember somewhere it was like well over 50% of deals that go under contract never close.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can imagine why. And many times they're salvageable. You just have to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the Merrill Lynch and Morgan Stanley experience comes in, because I was the national VP in charge of client experience. They were both new roles for those companies. Morgan, I guess, copied Merrill because Merrill had it first. But that was my job, to solve problems. And they were big ones sometimes, but you solve them. And then also having the banking experience, being familiar with mortgages, having taken them out myself for investment properties or working around the mortgage people there.
Totally. No, that I could see why that experience would be directly beneficial to what you have to deal with now as that consultant. Is there anything about being an agent that you don't like?
I don't like it so much when people assume that real estate agents are a commodity. I would be tempted to be insulted by that, but I'm not, because I know it's just people don't understand. But I really feel that myself and many of the wonderful agents that I work with are set apart from some of the others. And so I don't like to hear it that way and, have a discussion only on commission. Oh, well, this guy's half a point cheaper than you or whatever.
Right.
This is what
There's a
I
reason for
offer.
that.
Yeah. And this is what I offer. I have, I'm in demand, decent demand for business, and I'm satisfied. And if that's the most important thing to you, I totally understand. Have at it.
Yeah. I think a lot of that spirit comes from the fact that it isn't, there's so many people who have licenses, right? So the concept that it's not a huge barrier of entry just to get a real estate license in and of itself. I think when people, just because two people have licenses does not mean they're really operating in the same business or doing nearly the same things, right?
And, as an agent, I frequently have an agent on the other side who's either new or hasn't had the experience, maybe with a condominium, which is a different animal than a single family home. And I have a mentorship attitude, whether it's somebody from my company or somebody from another company. And I always try to help them. I help them with the paperwork. I go over the paperwork that comes in, and I'll usually find a couple of things missing or not correct or whatever, send them back, explain why we have to do it this way. And I end up doing my part of the deal sometimes, and then something on the other side as well.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. And again, I found that to be common too for people that have the level of experience that you have the certain level of success that you've had. There is in this industry a lot of up and coming newer agents who might have a deal in hand just because it's someone they know or a connection they have, but they don't really have the level of experience to really know what to look for.
Yeah.
And so the value that you bring because of that experience really is priceless in many ways if people understand that. So it speaks back to the idea of why it does pay. It's worth paying for what you pay to find the right agent, right?
I think so as well. And also, for some of these people, they don't have good support from their brokers a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So they don't really have anyone they feel comfortable going to for the true mentorship, meaning the nuts and bolts part of the mentorship.
Yeah, no doubt. No, that's a great point. It's actually in many ways the spirit behind why we have this Top Producers Nation community that we've been building out, because over the years we've found a lot of agents who, like you just said, don't have that support that they maybe should be getting from a broker or a team leader, even in some cases. And so we wanted to try to build out a community to share best practices from people like you in an open forum that people can learn from and hopefully benefit from and implement. And there's a lot of other benefits, I think, that come from that if we can get people to collaborate, right? Especially people who actually know what they're doing, and share those ideas. So that's a spirit behind it as well. So we appreciate all the knowledge you've already shared already on the show. I want to pivot a little bit to some of the personal side for people to get to know you even a little bit more. I know you mentioned off camera that you're married over 40 years, which I think is impressive in and of itself. We could probably have a whole podcast on that, right? Successful marriage tips.
I'm still deciding if I'm going to keep him, but it's looking good.
He's hanging on.
Yes.
So congratulations on that. What do you guys love to do for fun if you have any time for that when you're not just jamming in the business?
We really like traveling. When I was, 16 and people said, what do you want to do when you grow up, basically? The answer was always, I don't know, but I'm going to travel. And that was it. Didn't really matter what the job was. I just wanted to travel. So we end up doing that now quite a bit. We'll have, I guess, 3 trips this year. We're about to go on another one now. I've newly found that I love being on a catamaran. Okay. So we've chartered a couple of catamarans in different places.
Nice.
Because I, within the past 2 or 3 years, found a wonderful anti-motion sick, seasick medicine, so I can now actually go on a boat, which is wonderful. And then I'm present.
So you don't get sick in the air, but the boat was always throwing you off?
No, air is not good too sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a couple of rough business trips because of that when I was at Lufthansa, but yeah, we solved it now, so better late than never.
There you go. Is there a favorite place that you guys love to go see? Is there a favorite spot?
I love Europe.
Do you?
We did the hard trips when we were a bit younger, so we've been to some 3rd and 4th world places. I was educated in 5 schools around the world. I did an international master's program.
Wow.
And one of the modules was in India. And that was quite an experience there. And, Egypt we've been to, and there were a couple of places that were a little rougher to travel.
Yeah, I can imagine for sure.
Which I wouldn't want to do now.
I'd like to do more Europe myself. As I told you off camera that we have 6 young kids, so it's a little bit harder to travel with them to those types of trips.
That's a lot of airfare, yeah.
But years ago, before we were married, even my wife and I, when we were dating, we got to go to Italy, London, Ireland, and Prague actually was one of my favorite trips too. That was a gorgeous place to visit.
Yes, sure is.
Yeah, no doubt.
They escaped a lot of the damage during World War II.
Yeah, that's what I found interesting about it. The architecture wasn't really touched much, so you still see a lot of that old 11th century architecture, which is really kind of neat. So it was a cool experience for sure. Beautiful city.
Yes.
So a couple rapid fire questions for you. All right. Do you have a favorite book, author, seminar maybe that you've ever attended that you feel like has really made an impact at all on you personally or professionally?
For books, I would say I really enjoyed the Michener books, and he starts at a certain location in history as far back as caveman time, and then we'll go up through the years, such as Centennial was one of my favorites. And then there's another one that's not by Michener, but it's along the same lines, which was called London, and the author escapes me at the moment, but I really enjoyed those kind of books. I don't like history per se, but I like fiction that's historically accurate.
No, that's interesting. So these are fiction books?
Yes.
Okay, and so they're telling a story that was relevant to that time of history, and you can kind of put yourself in the place of the character and kind of picture what they went through at the time, I guess. Right?
And then it's the family through the years as well. So it's the same family going through, pioneer days and whatever else.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I do like books that allow your imagination to soar a little bit, and most of the people who I have on the show will focus on nonfiction, business help, and other sort of self-help or financial and stuff like that, which I think definitely has its place and definitely can be beneficial. But it's kind of neat to hear too some of the fiction recommendations that are out there as well, because I don't hear a lot of it.
Yeah, if I'm going to read, I don't want to read more about business. I have enough of that, with my day hours. So for enjoyment, I want fiction.
There you go. That makes sense. Do you have a favorite movie or TV show?
Movie or TV show? NPR just had, or PBS, I guess it was, sorry. PBS just had a couple of these short series things. Again, it's historical fiction in a way. One was called Sisi. It was this woman who became the Empress of Austria during the World War I and II periods. And that was really good. And then there was another one. I like the ones that take place overseas. So All Creatures Great and Small, which was about veterinarians working in a former time in England and things like that. So they have a couple of really good ones. Of course, Downton Abbey, that was That's killer of all time. Yep. Yeah, loved it.
The other ones you mentioned, are those documentaries?
They're not documentaries. No, it's a drama.
Okay. Gotcha. So yeah, I like talking with Jane, Rob, because she has different recommendations than anyone else that we've had on the show to throw out there. These aren't names that I've heard of before, so I feel like I'm learning. I'm more cultured when I get to hang out with Jane for a little bit. I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna ask you what I call our legacy question. I'm fascinated to hear what you'll say about this. So, hopefully many years from now, you'll be sitting on that rocking chair and enjoying your.
Remember
your
the motion
time.
sick. It's not going to be a rocking chair.
Or a stable chair. That's fine as well.
Thank you.
And you get a chance to kind of think about what you'd want to be most remembered for, right? What you think you'd want your legacy to be. What thoughts come to mind as far as what you would want that legacy to be, personally or professionally? What matters most to you?
I think that, and I've had experiences already as a blessing for people coming back to me and giving me instances where I had no idea that a difference was made to them just because of something I did or said. And I think that's what I'd like to be remembered for. I think being a Christian woman, firstly, and then spreading kindness to people or taking the time to listen to what their problem was and offering comfort or offering suggestion or just kind of being there, whether it's a friend or an acquaintance or an employee. I would like to be remembered for that, for being someone that people could come to.
Yeah, no, very cool. I think the impact that we make obviously on others is where usually most people go. And it's always a good reminder, I think, that we work very, very hard, most of us do, on trying to be successful in business and have our businesses grow and thrive. But at the end of the day, it's usually the most successful people in business are the ones who focus on serving
Yes.
other people at a certain level, which you've been talking a lot about on the show, is your commitment to customer service and serving your clients at the highest level. So it speaks to, again, why you've been great at what you do.
Thank you.
So it's great to have you here, and we're gonna put a bow on the episode, and so we can get you out of here and back to your busy weekend and life. And so, if somebody wanted to reach out to you, though, Jane, whether it's an agent who just was triggered by something you might have said and wanted to follow up with you to have a conversation, or could even be somebody who sees this anywhere who just would like to work with somebody who's as professional as you are, or connects with some of the things you mentioned today, what's the best way for someone to reach you?
Either call me 727-348-3888 or email janegulfbeaches@gmail.com.
There you go. So that is a niche for you, the golf area, right in your email. So that's a nice tag for sure.
Yeah.
So there you go. You can check out Jane there. And like I said, Jane has been featured in a previous issue of Tampa Bay Real Producers, and you can find that too up on our website, tampabayrealproducers.com. We're going to put a bow on this episode the way we always do, which is with a call to action to anyone in the audience. So if you're watching live through YouTube or Facebook or whatever platform, we're on like 15 different podcast platforms now that you might be subscribed to. If you don't subscribe to the show, by the way, just click that little button below. That way you'll be notified every time a new episode drops, which is weekly. We come out with a weekly episode with conversations like this with Jane. And I would encourage you to find one thing from this episode today that you can take action on. I'm a big believer that if you don't take action, a lot of what you might have heard that could have been valuable is lost. And we don't want that to be lost. We want you to capture that value. And so maybe it's that mindset that Jane shared about customer service and coming up with checklists the way that she talked about that she's done in her business. I wrote down this focus on knowledge and service was really a lot of our conversation today with Jane. And I loved the conversation that she brought up about being intentional in every checkpoint and every time you touch the customer and thinking first about how you can add value. That's a big part of our whole community platform and mission in many ways, is about leading with value, right? We call them value leading offers, is something we really believe in. So what's one thing, right? Something you can do that might tweak the way you're running your business right now, make it a little bit better. Maybe it's not even a business thing. It could have been one of the personal book recommendations that Jane threw out there that you want to let yourself daydream a little bit, but find something and do something to be able to improve your stock moving forward. We, of course, will see you on the next episode of the Top Producers Nation podcast. But in the meantime, check us out at topproducersnation.com to learn more about the community we have, what resources are on there, programs and different things we have in place to help you be a top producer in your desired market. We will see you on the next episode. Later.